All right, guys, 3:45. Decided I would rep the Burn Method brand here for Coach Burn and our Crimson Lax camps. Also got slightly lazy with the music choices. Just stuck with Jurassic 5, let it scroll. So congrats to all those who guessed those. Junction Barbecue is getting a shout out for guessing the first song, Improvised by Jurassic 5. I am going to be talking about early offense from that same Redwoods chaos game. The fact that their game is so fast means that, there's a lot of early offense, right? And there's a lot of, opportunities for guys while they're subbing for them to, go to the rack and play 4-on-4, 5-on-5. Some of those defensive players are so good. It's hard once you get a settled defensive possession to score 6-on-6, and you may only have 25, 30 seconds to do it. So early offense is key in that league, right? So we'll go to the clips here. All right. So our first clip is right off the face-off of the very first possession, right? And you'll notice, Grenland did a good job. I think they went about 50-50. Grenland came up with a lot of key ground balls late. But this first one, he's from his feet, gets the rock, and now they're playing offense. Right, so you see early, Karolounis is here. They have Sergio on, and Sergio, became a really good two-way midi in this league this year. Was able to take wings on faceoffs. He could play defense if they lost the faceoff and stay and play some early O. They had guys like Brent Adams. They did a really good job of having midfielders who go both ways, which is key to early offense. Karolounis, you saw it snuck a peek, made sure there wasn't ball pressure, and now looks to sub. We see he sneaks one more peek, to make sure that, there's no ball pressure. He may have to stay and help be an outlet or fight for a ground ball. So early on here, Sergio gets the ball. They're 5-on-6, right? But that doesn't mean, transition doesn't always mean it's a straight 4-on-3, 5-on-4, unsettled play necessarily. Really, it's any early part of the possession where a defense or an offense isn't set, right? And what you're doing is you're relying on your rules and your principles offensively, and guys to trust each other to make plays here, right? So Sergio dodges. The Grenland is still on the field, puts his guy in the slide roll and does a really good job of sprinting. He's giving effort and authentic with the fact that he may come set a pick and try to get a switch and keep the faceoff guy on, and then breaks it off, right? And now there's about a 5-yard gap between him and the faceoff guy. So, if they, hold on to the possession here and just spin the ball, they're going to have a brief 6-on-5 at the end of this as they sub, right? So as he, subs, now we're 5-on-6, right? We're really 4-on-5 underneath the play here, right? And everybody's in a dangerous position. You've got Ryder Garnsey back here, who's a great feeder, can get up the hash, holding his defenseman on the back pipe, because if he's on the front pipe, he's able to drift him and get up the hash and make a play. We got Jules Hennenberg on the backside in the skip lane, and then Matt Kavanaugh on in the spot for a rollback or a throwback, stick to the inside, ready to make a play and make guys pay. So it makes, Brody Merrill's decision really difficult, right? He's, the slide guy, but if we go back, right, first he thinks this guy may help on defense, so he doesn't have to show all that much. As he beats him, now he has to rush into this roll, and once he gets to this point, Sergio has everything. He could bail out of this and throw here, knowing that there's, options on the backside. He could roll out and come back and throw to Cav, who's got a really tough, Brody has a really tough approach on him. Or, he can get to the front of the cage here, right? And he's got the defender on his back. Brody's got a really tough angle on the slide, and he's able to draw a push and get to the front of the goal and score a great goal to, start things off. All right, so second clip here now for the Chaos as they get a clear, Brody Merrill off the ground ball is something he's been doing for 20 years, right? And again, they have 6 guys here. Now, one guy is going to be subbing. The Redwoods have 6 guys. The Chaos, they only have 4 guys in the picture and 1 subbing. One's a pull now. So now we're at 3. Again, this is early offense. It's not straight transition. What it is, testing defenses and putting them in tough situations so that even if you don't score like you did on that last clip, you're still going to end up with maybe a great matchup or a defense that's had to engage, communicate, slide, and recover effectively for, 20 to 30 seconds. All right, so as the Chaos sub, the Redwoods have a guy subbing. They're 4-on-4. Sexton here is worried about who's coming out of the box, Miles Jones or one of the big athletic midfielders for the Chaos. And what that leads to is a 4-on-4 situation, right? And, the Dodger here does a great job of changing the angle of his dodge. So he goes, from where he catches the ball right here, D Middy's kind of squared up on him, ready to kind of give him underneath, but could force him topside too. All of a sudden, with kind of a casual carry, right? Coach Hutchinson just talked about that in the previous webinar. Now he's got almost a straight line at the goal because the D Middy is kind of unaware of where he is on the field, right? So you've got Josh Burns, a great lefty. This is a similar situation to what we had in the previous clip. It's just slightly more two-man-esque play, right? Josh Burns is here, may set a pick, could slip it, right? Could flip the pick for him to come back top side. And it makes this really tough because Landis and Glazner are in, really tough spots because there's only 2 of them, right? If there were 2 more guys in here to play, it would make their job a little easier. You see Landis is playing it differently than Newman in the previous clip. Connor Fields is trying to drift him, and Landis elects to stay on the front pipe, which, is neither a right or wrong. It's just going to open up different options for the offense here. So as we see, he kind of lull dodges, right? He walks into this and then bursts, and that causes Eppel. He has to show here, right? Because if he doesn't, this guy has his hands free. He can get to the front. He may be able to open up and still throw it to Fields or, kind of lean in and pin this guy's hands the way Miles did in Coach Hutchinson's clips and still get to the front of the cage. So Eppel has to show freeing up a lefty shooter, and the Dodger puts a great ball on Burns' ear, and it leads to a goal. Right? So this is all simple stuff. The overarching theme, obviously these guys are the best players in the world, but the 2 things to take away from this is that you should be testing in early offense. It doesn't mean you have to go all in, right? He goes here, if this guy slides or he can't throw this pass, he can bail out and they're still playing offense, but it's made all 4 of these guys engage, give effort, communicate for, 30 seconds now, right? There's 26 seconds on the shot clock. So, regardless of if you have guys on your team who can throw backhanded passes and, catch this ball and get it out quickly, you can still have guys test and probe defenses and force them to make all these decisions because more often than not, they're going to screw up. They're going to screw up at some point, right? Yeah. So it's also, Coach Byrne just brought up a great point here as the grandmaster. What this does is condense the defense, right? You have 4 guys now playing 4 or 5 yards above the cage and only, 4 or 5 yards outside the crease, right? So as guys come in, you're going to have, big kind of runway or bomber dodges from the box or it's going to create offense for your team regardless of what action you're going to be running. Right? So those are, the clips. Let's open it up to some questions here. We've got the chat here. I'll scroll through again. I know it's tough at times because these guys are world-class players, but there are drills and there are things. We're going to go over a drill here in a sec that actually producer Bergman came up with we ended up doing almost every day was a really key drill for us. Let's answer some questions first. Chess. There is not a drill going on right now. We're about to show that. The app that we're using is, this is Zoom. We also use Sports Code to telestrate. Coach Byrne used Huddle yesterday. So there's a lot of options. Kind of depends on your personal preference. A question here from M. Nuss. Do the chaos subbing middies delay getting on to let the early offense make a play? I don't think it does. I think that the whole point is that the attacker are able to make plays while the midfielders are subbing. And that's a stylistic decision, right? You can not run some really early offense, and you can sub guys so that you have as much time as possible with your 6 guys. Just what we've found, all the coaches here at different levels have found it's really tough to consistently score 6-on-6 goals. We feel that way defensively. We feel like we're really tough to score against 6-on-6. So it's really tough to score that 10 to 12 goals a game that you need to win games. Strictly 6-on-6. So you need some in early offense. So, so while you're subbing guys, you can still be attacking and making sure that the defense isn't being let off the hook. Another one here. When I think Josh Byrne in the clip sets the up pick, should he fade or simply float up top? That's a great question. Let's go back to the clip here. That second clip. All right, so as we get here to when Josh Byrne is coming to set this, sets the up pick, you should fade. It's partly dependent on the hand of this guy. It's dependent on the hand of here. It's dependent on how much chemistry you have with him. He probably knows that he's going to pop for his left hand here. So he knows he's going to have the underneath, right? If the angle was a little different, if the defender was playing him a little differently, it would cause this play to be a little different, right? If he had squared him up and forced him to come top side, or the Dodger had tried to sweep to the middle to get a better angle, right? Byrne is either setting a hard pick and then slipping, or a shallow clear through that he can, then throw back and put Epple in that same, go, no-go decision, right, in the middle of the field here. So hopefully that helps answer your question. Another question from Andrew. What are the rules, guidelines, clues you tell players to help them decide whether early offense generated is a good look or not? For high school players, the judgment is tough. I completely agree. I was fortunate enough to start my coaching career coaching high school, and we worked on this a little bit, but not as much as we should, because it's really hard. I think some factors that you have to teach guys to look for is, what point are you at in the game? Is it late, right? Do you have a lead? Are you, you do want to sit on the ball for a little bit? Have you just played a really long defensive possession? Maybe you failed a clear, or they got a shot back up or a rebound that caused them to play multiple possessions on defense. Then it's I'm not going to put a hard stance and say you can't run and test early offense, but you need to make sure that if you're going to go all in, you have to be really, really sure, because you don't want your defense, the ball to come down. Even if you think it's the right decision, guy makes an unbelievable save and the ball's coming right back down after you play 2 minutes of defense, right? So there's in-game factors that really make a big difference on this, that are tough to teach, but those are some of the cues. Is what's the point of the situation? What's your matchup? Who is the guy coming down? Is it maybe one of your offensive middies coming down who would just play defense? Is it a D middie that you trust running some 2-man or playing offense? Those are all kind of the cues that we look for when we're trying to run some early action. And then, of course, you can sub guys if they're going to, stick with guys and sub like they are right here. They can, your attack can be attacking underneath the play here, right? They could be down here running 3-on-3 while everyone else is subbing or waiting for guys to sub. Right? In high school, a lot of teams run two-way middies and pack the paint when they sub rather than follow in a 4-on-4 situation. How would you generate quick offense in that situation, or would you just settle and play sixes? Another, really good question. Applying this to high school lacrosse. I think the main thing is the fact that you want to test, right? If people are running two-way midfielders, it's more about making them guard, a pick early in a possession. So if we come down here, so if you come down and run some authentic two-man, come off of this and see if there's, anything doing. Maybe even if this is a guy who's going to stay on the field, see how they play that. Then you move it to the backside and you change fields and you attack again. And then maybe you sub your guys, and now you have two or three fresh middies coming on the field who are, fresh and ready to attack. And they have guys who just had to play defense, come down, guard or play offense, come down, guard two-man, guard another dodge, slide, recover, either communicate and recover, or communicate the slide and communicate the recovery for guys. So, it's more about putting their guys in tough situations. And then, of course, after they do all that, right, we've collapsed the defense like we mentioned earlier. So we have, a bomber or a runway dodge from the box, and now they have to come from inside the box here, right, to or inside the 2-point arc for them to approach a guy who has a full, maybe 10, 15 yards head of steam, or he has to break and beat the ball out there, and run that 10, 15 yards before the ball gets there. All is tremendously tough to guard, over the course of a game. It doesn't mean you're going to get a goal or a great look every time, but you're trying to wear them down, and you're trying to, continue to find little cracks in the defense that allow you to get some easy goals besides the 6-on-6 ones. Do you set rules or time limits for your, designation between early and regular offense? I think for them, it's much shorter, right? Unless they're going to run two-way guys for the PLL. For us, there are some times, again, that kind of touches on the question earlier of, the rules, guidelines, right? If we have the right guys on the field that we trust, maybe we'll run them as two-way guys. Or a common thing that teams do is they'll bring a guy. So instead of, this defenseman just subbing, right? He may run and stand off to the side of the field here and see if this guy subbing with him is going to stay. And if he stays, they'll play 5-on-5 is another option that a lot of teams do. This guy basically gets a break anyway. So if they turn it over, he's ready to break and stay on the field. And they trap a guy, and it's easier to play 5-on-5 than it is 6-on-6, right? So, especially if you have some designated action, some picks or some off-ball action exchanges that make it really tough to guard without, one extra defenseman. So, the time limit is up to you and your personnel. It's shot clock dependent, right? If you watch games from 2 years ago, teams would do this for, a minute and a half before subbing their guy, or they would run some stuff and they'd be on the field. Jack Neer, who's on this team, who I played with, was unbelievable at this. He scored, more goals than I did in my career as a D midi, wrapping the corner and staying on the field and playing. So it's all time dependent. If you have a shot clock, you can stretch it out. If not, you want to pick and choose your opportunities and your, personnel dependent. Question from Nathan: what's the best way to encourage kids to force the issue early, but still keep the ball if looks aren't there? How do you help them make the smartest decision? Another really good question, because it depends on how much trust you're going to put in your guys. You have to teach them what the right looks are, and that's time dependent. That's personnel dependent, right? Everyone knows the phrase KYP, know your personnel. You don't want to, run two-man too much, right? If this defender slips this, you better be, dang sure that he's going to catch the ball and put it on his ear if you're going to throw back to him, because that's a long ball trying to make decisions now at GLE that, are usually reserved for the best attackman in the world or the best attackman on your team to make decisions from here. So, part of it is your personnel, and the stuff that you're teaching is use film, right? Do this, what we're doing right here, watch this with your guys, send them clips, You know, Huddle has the Telestration app that you can send them clips with the telestrations on them. So you can, you know, annotate and put some notes on and draw up what they should be looking at, right? That's a really useful tool. You know, the distance learning is key, you know, for high school coaches who may not have enough time to, you know, watch a ton of film with their guys. So if you have Huddle, you can share clips with them, you know, after practice, right? You know, and from Andrew Stanley, do your early offense rules or concepts change when you have a poll, assuming he can handle carryover? So we just kind of touched on that, right? It's personnel. If it's a guy who can really handle the ball, you're still hesitant. It depends on who's guarding him. Is it a D midi? You know, you're not going to run two man with, you know, their subbed on fresh D midi ready to play that. But if they have an offensive midi, maybe he's setting a hard pick to try to get a switch. You know, the rules do change, I guess, is the simple answer. We don't like to treat, you know, polls as short sticks in that situation, but there are teams that do. It's dependent on who you have on your team and who you trust. I know other teams have guys, you know, who can handle the ball as well as anybody with a long pole. Can you explain the bomber dodge that will present itself with a long approach? Absolutely. So that is, you know, a bomber dodge basically is this. If he caught this and got a big run at Garrett Epple, you know, this is what we would consider a bomber dodge, right? And what happens, you know, and Coach Byrne, you know, was in my ear bringing this up as well, is that after all of this, if he doesn't get this shot, you know, or he moves it to Connor Fields, you know, if he's able to, you know, throw this pass right here, Connor Fields is then maybe able left-handed to come up here and find the next guy subbing on, right? Remember, we saw John Sexton's waiting for a guy up here. There's another guy as well waiting to come on the field. So as this happens, Sexton is getting in the hole right now. There are other defensive personnel maybe getting in the hole as they create this and collapse the defense. Even with just four guys, you know, they're going to be able to find their guy coming out of the box and get a big run at a guy who just had to play, you know, sub on the field, get in, communicate, play defense here, and then get back out and challenge a guy, you know, on a really long approach. So what kind of terminology do you use in early offense? Great question. Shout out Chris Williams, my former high school coach. Awesome coach, awesome guy. The terminology, we try to be minimal with our terminology. We don't want to use a ton of terms because that can confuse guys. You know, some simple calls for the attack to get the ball early, you know, to make sure that we want them to have the ball so that they can see the whole field, right? Right now, as this defender comes down, he can see what's in front of him, but he can't see what's behind him. So in this situation, all six guys are in front of him. A lot of times there's guys chasing him. He doesn't know, you know, if he's able to wind up and shoot or go to the goal or you know, what his decisions are exactly, right? So the easiest thing is to throw it here and let him make the decision. And then he'll have some calls for either maybe a pick, right? Possibly, you know, a jump cut or a clear through. And then the other option is you can have, you know, some terms if you want this guy to dodge. Say this is an offensive midi or Sergio or Brent Adams, you know, of the Redwoods, guys who are running two ways, and there's a short stick approaching him like there is here, an offensive midi, you know, you can clear through and let him go to the goal. So really, those are the only real terms that we use in early offense. You know, the rest is practicing little drills, a lot like the one that Coach Hutchinson drew up that will be put on YouTube tonight, the chaos stick work, right? There's plenty of little drills, and what we do, and you know, Coach Byrne does an unbelievable job of, is take little instances all over the field and just create a drill out of it. You know, make guys play defense or envision there's defense there, and rep just that individual skill. So rep this, you know, coming down the field full speed throw and then making different decisions, right? Rep coming off of this and turning in and shooting, rep, you know, going underneath of it, or throw and attacking the backside because they thought something was happening here and now it's happening on the backside, right? So, you know, I think the terminology, the what we like is to keep the decisions to them. So giving them a few terms and the rest teaching them the tools, the skills, and the decision-making components that they're able to then play with, right? We don't have to be, playing a video game from the sidelines. They're able to go out and play, right? I think Coach Hutch does a great job of that with the offense, and obviously Coach Byrne has a long history of doing that with the defense. So last question here, Ian, the YouTube channel is HLX1881 on YouTube. We can post the link in here. Coach Bergman, who hopefully is watching, just put it up. There it is right there. So from Ty Souders, hopefully I didn't butcher that. What type of action do you recommend in these scenarios? All on-ball picks and slips? Or would you like to see some off-ball motion as well? Fields and Thompson are not moving in this clip. Again, personnel dependent. I think there's a long litany of things that you can do, right? You can run some two-man stuff like they do here. If Connor Fields was up here and Miles was down, at X, maybe an exchange to get them moving and then coming to their strong hand would be a great action, or just exchanging just to keep their defenders occupied. I'm a big fan of kind of the more off-ball movement, the better, as long as you're still staying dangerous and your stick's up and you have great footwork. So, the better you can, create some action and distract guys, the easier it is for the guy with the ball to beat his guy and then not have a slide ready in his face or a two slide, or, maybe it's not as simple as that, but, 4 passes later, because guys have had to guard so much offense and action, they're going to be late on an approach like Coach Byrne, has talked about, and that becomes really tough. That's when those shot shows that Coach Hutch talks about are really important. And some of those approaches are products of, some early offense and some great ball movement. And all of a sudden you've got to sprint out at a guy who's winding up at 15, right? So, we're going to go to a drill here that we do called the Seawolf drill, named after the Stony Brook Seawolves. We came up with it after we scrimmaged them early this year. We, Coach Bergman actually came up with it because it installs a lot of some skills that we really need to work on. So, we'll go back here. Coach Hutch is going to hold the computer and make sure that we are, dialed in. So, the Seawolf drill, there are 3 main keys here. And obviously there's going to be a lot of sub-points to this that are offensive and defensive dependent. This is more of a full team drill. Obviously, we're strongly discouraged from practicing as a full team right now. But once, the season starts up again this summer, this is a great drill for high school, middle school, club teams that don't get to practice that often, because these are situations they're going to be in, right? So the first one is authenticity, right? There's multiple pieces to this drill. There's a clearing component. There's a 4-on-4, transition component. Then it becomes a 5-on-4 or 6-on-5 and a 6-on-6 component. So being authentic with this early part of the clearing cuts is important, because it's not just about getting to a 6-on-6. It's about getting better at each individual piece of this, right? Know your situation offensively and defensively. You have to make sure that you're aware if it's a 4-on-4. Is it a 5-on-4? Is it a 3-on-2 because 2 guys are outside the play? Or is it a 6-on-6 where you can communicate and you can have guys in roles, right? So, that's the sub point here, is you have to communicate defensively and offensively. Offensively, if you're 5-on-6, you can test like we're talking about, but you also want to be sure that, a 6th guy is coming, and you don't want to, turn the ball over when you're 5-on-6 and not at full strength, right? And then the last is embrace the unsettled, right? Or as Coach Bergman will say, the gray, right? There's a lot of moving pieces here. It kind of changes dynamics multiple times. You have to embrace and play and use your rules and your principles that you have as your team on how you play each situation, offensively and defensively, right? So getting to the drill here, there will be a coach up here with balls. Goalie in the goal here has balls. All right, it's going to start with black is on defense, the silver is on offense, and the ball is going to be outlet away from box side, practicing these, let's say they're D-mids, getting away from the box on box side. So what we have a banana cut here from this defenseman, right? A defenseman here is also going to banana cut as if we were in a game. These two D-middies are going to break up the field and then come back to the ball, right? So the first pass here, right? This guy breaks back, that's pass number 2, right? And then this guy keeps stretching and gets back, right? That's pass number 3 as he catches this, makes the big turn and makes that pass. These attackmen, the silver, are loosely riding, right? You want to get here and get, maybe a little ball pressure or be in the way to make this difficult. This guy drops, this attackman drops with these midfielders and makes this tough. Maybe, drops with one of them and chases him or stays early and makes this guy find a lane, right? So as he drops, he's going to drop here and help so that you're in a situation that you would be if you fail to clear, right? So as we get here, right now, these guys are up here. The defensemen are spread out as if they had, been trying to clear the ball. They're up here. Now we're gonna release one guy. This, has the ball here. This D-midi throws this pass, is now the 4th pass of the drill, and now we're coming in and playing 4-on-4, right? So this guy has to break and get in. The defensemen have to collapse and find a man in a roll, and the attackmen have to get to dangerous spots, right? If he pushes this way, he's got maybe a 2-on-1 for a bit, or if they shift over, right? Trying to find an advantage and playing out this 4-on-4. Again, this doesn't have to lead to a shot, and oftentimes it may not. You would hope it does, but the goal is not to just, play crazily and rush a shot. The goal is to survive this offensively, put pressure on them. You get a great shot, fantastic, right? Bury it. If not, we're going to release 2 guys on 2 passes, whatever passes they may be. Say we go, one there, and he passes it right back. Now, 2 offensive guys and 2 defensive guys are released, and it becomes a 6-on-6. And that's where this communication and know your situation is in. The coach may also release 1 guy at a time, so it becomes a 5-on-5, or 1 offensive guy, so it's a 5-on-4, or maybe a defensive guy. Now they have an extra guy, and you have to communicate. Does this guy double the ball? What are your rules defensively? Does he become a free guy and becomes a permanent slide or the slide or the push? So, dependent on how you want to play it, there's a lot of options to this drill. So you release them in, and now you have to go, again, testing unsettled, until they get in a shape and until everybody's marked up. It's still unsettled, and there's a lot of opportunities for you to get to the goal. But then you set it up, and you play out an offensive possession, right? So maybe you get in a 2-3-1, right? And now, right, you're playing from here, right? You play it through a clear and then reset and go again, right? You get some D-middies here. If we clear the board, the way it's set up again so that we see, you have 3 attackmen in, you have 2 D-middies here, and 2 defensemen with the goal. And you can rotate. Box side doesn't have to be the same side every time. So rotate which side it's going to be, right? That is the Seawolf drill. And that's it. Pardon. Yeah, I think I could, stay with us here. We actually have some practice footage of the Seawolf drill. Let me see, what we can find here. So I'm going to stop sharing my video we can stay on me. I'm just going to search through. Huh? Last day of practice. All right. That's right.
March 10th.
Yep.
At the end.
All right, so this is going to be, let's find a rep. All right. Oh, we're not in sports code anymore. We cannot. Let's reset it here. Oh, this is 6-on-6. Apologize for the pause in production. All right. So we're going to go back and share our screen here. Thank you for staying with us. Saw a couple comments there that said awesome drill. Want to reemphasize that this is Coach Bergman. He loves the breakouts from the middies, and we evolved it into a competitive drill because I think that's a really important piece of what you do in practice is be competitive and foster that competitiveness in your team. So as we see here, all right, white is on offense. You've got 3 attackmen. We've got our 2 D middies. They can be an LSM. We have an LSM right here. Right, so LSM, right, D midi, right, and we've got our defensemen out here. So you've got your 4 defensive guys, you know, in the drill, and the attackmen are loosely riding, right? So we break out away from box side. You know, you'll notice the box lines are here. We switch it, you know, every couple times just to make sure we're getting used to breaking out both ways, right? Our attackmen are not riding currently. You know, we catch, we come back to the ball. Now we turn again. And right here, so I was up at the, you know, the midfield line and switching how many guys were released. So right now, you know, we have the 4th guy. It's a 4-on-4, but here's the 5th defensive guy and 2 white guys. So it becomes a 6-on-5 pretty quickly here. That's on the attack to recognize who's coming down, just like it would in a game. How many guys are coming down? Where are my options? Do I have a skip? You know, do I feed an inside? Do I just want to move the ball through X? You know, you can practice all of those situations, right? So if we see, you know, this guy has the ball, you know, our attackman here should be getting out wide to come get this ball from him. We don't want him making the decision, right? You know, in a game, this pass to this defender right here as he breaks, or this offensive guy looks enticing because he's open, but you don't know if there's another defender, you know, right behind him coming down, because all you can see is, you know, kind of parallel with you and in front of you. You can't see what's going on behind you, right? So as we come down, a little up pick from the attack, which is another great option. You know, Matt Cavanaugh, you know, did that really well at his years at Notre Dame, right? They move it through X, and now we see the last guy come in. So we have to communicate, find a role, and now we play 6-on-6, and that's on the offense to, you know, understand and recognize. A lot of it is on, you know, this, you know, the trailing midfielder as we come in, right? This guy right here, he knows that he's the 6th guy because he can see 5 guys in front of him. So he's saying we're 6-on-6. You know, if he can see we're 5-on-5 or there's 5 guys underneath him, communicate that, and you know, we have an extra guy. But as this 6th guy comes in for defense off the pass, now he has to be saying we're 6-on-6. Everybody get a man and get a roll, right? So make sure that you're communicating, and that was, you know, step, you know, or the second coaching point was make sure that you know what situation you're in, because there's no greater. I really think that's the key piece to early offense and early transition is know what situation you're in. What can you get away with? What can you be testing right now, right? Or what should we be looking for as an offensive and defensive guy, right? We talked about knowing the game situation. It's the game situation that's right in front of you and immediate. It's also the kind of grandiose game situation, right? What's you know, what's the time in the game, time in the quarter, what's the score? It's knowing both of those things, the micro and the macro, that make this really an important drill and an important part of lacrosse. So, you know, with that, you know, I think that about sums it up. We have the YouTube link is posted from Coach Bergman. You know, Kyle Anderson, thank you for guys. Thanks for being on here. We look forward to doing this again, you know, from our whole staff, and stay tuned, right? There'll be more of these coming. I know we're all wishing we could be on the field right now, but this is the best we got. So we're going to, you know, take lemons and make lemonade. So thank you guys.